Heyo! Welcome in. It's a Friday here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. I've got nothing on the docket, but we'll look around and find some things. I do see a few things out there, a few items, as myself and the rest of the media types basically make up news. Basically, every time you see power rankings or all sorts of speculation, basically we're making up news. Is basically what we're doing. So we are just about 5 weeks, I believe, from less than that, from Big 12 Media Days, followed by the SEC and the Big 10. And then people will talk and will report on what they are talking about. That generally doesn't mean a whole lot either. So we'll do that then once we get to Media Days. But it's fun regardless. Hope you're having a great Friday. I cannot complain. I could complain. There's a lot of things to complain about. I think we all have those lists. But really, when it comes down to it, when I look around the world, can't complain. You know, I could be in California. You know, I could be in Siberia. So can't complain. So we have left the call-in line there in the chat. Please give me a call. We'll talk college football. If you would like to extend past the hour, please let me know. There's an easy way to do that, of course. Please contribute, and we'll extend it past. We're looking to go from 4 to 5 Eastern every day, unless you would encourage us to stick around. So it's based on your interest in the show. Karen's here. Edward's here. And we always appreciate Powcar1 with his customary greeting. Good to see you, Powcar1. Ed says, I give thanks every day for Smith saying Downs Styles. I give thanks every day for Smith saying Downs Styles. Smith said what? Who's Smith? Said Downs Styles. Sounds like you're trying to regurgitate the Ohio State football roster. But, okay. Burks, appreciate you being here. Thank you for that. Less than 90 days until the Michigan verdict. Thank goodness. That's one thing I was about to thank God for that, but I don't think God cares. He doesn't care. There will be justice one day. It may not be in 90 days, but there will be justice one day. But it may not be in 90 days. But Burks, thanks for that. Yes, Connor Stallions apparently impressed everybody by wearing a suit and showed up for the hearings, and the NCAA got its final interviews in, and that was in the past week. And it's supposed to take about 60 to 90 days for the NCAA to lay down a judgment, of which I think is going to be rather anticlimactic. I don't think a whole lot is going to come of it. I am just not expecting that. All right, folks, we do appreciate you. We do have a caller coming in. Let's see who we've got. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Look at this.
Hey, Mark, it's Matthew. Sorry if my voice is bad. I'm sick, but
that's okay. We hope you feel better.
Yeah, I do too. I have this question, and I found it interesting, and I found it on the Florida State channel. So they were saying that Miami, Clemson, and Florida State should all think that they deserve to get in the college football playoff every year. Like, that should be the expectations. So how many schools do you think have those expectations in college football? And how many do you think actually should have those expectations?
So we're taking a stab at it based on results from the past, based on how much money is being pumped into these football programs, and based on how they talk, and based on what they've done and what they look to do and how they recruit and how they dip into the transfer portal. Okay, because obviously I'm not inside the the locker room doesn't even really matter. It's more about, not in the middle of administration offices and coaches' offices to see what they legitimately think and what they believe. All right, in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State have to be thinking about going to the playoff every year. That it would be a colossal disappointment if they did not go to the playoff. Then USC has to have a goal of going to the playoff. Now, based on recent performance, I don't know that that can be an expectation, but that has to be historically they're in the same tier as the other ones I just mentioned, and even, of course, above Oregon. But the status of the program right now, they got to be thinking more goal, but not just chaos and burn down the buildings if we don't make it, because they're not there. And maybe they're the only one in that category because they should be where the other ones are, but they've not performed to that degree. So then I think you get a layer of teams, Wisconsin, Iowa, maybe with Brett Bielema there. Illinois showed us some life last year. I don't know that we should really change our perception on these programs based on one season, but Illinois seems to have captivated a lot of people since they won 10 games and they bring back all these starters. But if we're talking long-term, then leave Illinois out of it. And I'd say Iowa, Wisconsin would have reasonable expectations that's a hope. That's a reasonable hope every year if things break right. If we cycled our development and our team together correctly, but that's not an expectation, but it's a hope. It's a reasonable hope. Moving to the SEC, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. Well, let me take Texas A&M out of it. Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Bama, LSU. We are playoff football programs. We should be in the playoff.
You don't think Florida's in that?
I'm just spitting out teams. So Florida was the next one on my tongue to say. Again, maybe put them in the USC category. That they're in a downward slump right now. They've shown signs of getting out of it. They did in November. So maybe Florida, Tennessee, Texas A&M. That's a legitimate hope. That's a USC expectation, but are the programs really there right now? So I'll put them in that other category. And then I will say that Missouri, Ole Miss, Missouri and Ole Miss are realistically shooting for the playoff, but their fans should have no great expectations that they're going to make a shot at the playoffs consistently. And then the rest of the conference spends money on football and would like to win, but it's a long shot. Vanderbilt, Kentucky, maybe put South Carolina in with the others, and Mississippi State, Arkansas. The ACC, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. Clemson and Florida State should talk a bigger game than Miami. Miami's done nothing for a long, long time, and it's all just smoke and mirrors and recruiting rankings and the history. None of it's tangible. Clemson and Florida State is tangible. They've won the conference. Obviously, Clemson has been elite very recently. And then the reasonable shot after that, well, we just saw SMU do it. Virginia Tech could do it. Louisville can do it. NC State can do it. And maybe I'm missing somebody off the top of my head. Georgia Tech could possibly do it.
Maybe Virginia Tech.
Then it's a pipe dream. Yeah, Virginia Tech was, the first team I mentioned there. And then in the Big 12, shoot.
Is this the conference with the, everyone can think they have a shot?
Everyone can. I think that Cincinnati, Houston, UCF are still trying to get to a place where they've got the depth and they've got the bodies up front to compete week after week, but they'll get there within 2 years if they know what they're doing. Yeah, the rest of I think that Iowa State's running their program extremely well, and Kansas State always does. And so give them a nod. And if Kenny Dillingham is as good as we think he is, then give them a nod going forward. We'll see if Kyle Whittingham's going to stick around for long, if that impacts Utah greatly. But, there's about 4 programs at Oklahoma State that have a decided edge over Texas Tech and Baylor and maybe some others. But even those schools have jumped up. Baylor's jumped up. TCU's jumped up. So, yeah, that's a free-for-all.
No, I completely agree. I think they're the most open. But the next question, or I guess statement I wanted to make was, I watch the Oklahoma channel often, just because they're our rivals, so I want to see what's going on with them. And they get so frustrated that multiple people have ranked Arch Manning above John Mateer. So my question to you would be: would you have Arch Manning above John Mateer in your season rankings of QBs going into the season?
I don't even know if I've watched, even seen John Mateer throw a football in my life. I can't recall. Maybe I have, probably have at some point seen Washington State, Oregon State for 3 plays or something like that. But really, I have no evaluation on his skills other than seeing a stat sheet, which is impressive. Arch Manning, more likely will be either the best quarterback in college football this year or a top 5 quarterback than John Mateer. Like, John Mateer's got this experience, obviously, in the numbers to back up his floor, but the ceilings in Arch Manning's, it's on his side considerably. So I would rank Arch Manning above John Mateer myself.
Yeah, I'm not crazy hot. I'm high on Arch Manning, but I'm not delusional. So I have him ranked. Gerald and I did our rankings of SEC quarterbacks. I have him ranked 4th. I'm not I'm not going to put him 1 right now. I have 3 guys ahead of him, and I have Mateer 5th. And Mateer had 2 games last year versus Power 4 competition. His completion percentage was 49% combined in those 2 games. He's okay. I don't think he's great.
Yeah, if anyone is only going to evaluate quarterbacks or make some kind of projection on quarterback play or any position play, and they're going to eliminate everyone who has yet to play, then you're only going to rank so many quarterbacks. You're going to eliminate the Ohio State quarterback, the Michigan quarterback, the Oregon quarterback, the Texas quarterback. Gunnar Stockton, you're going to go off of 1.5 games. Okay.
Well, that was my point too. If you look at the 10 best title odds, all 7 of them have basically unproven quarterbacks. Like, this is a very interesting year where there's really no quarterback other than, you could say, Drew Aller and Kate Klubnik, that are like, okay, those guys are good quarterbacks. Everyone else is an unknown.
Yeah, I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with Corey Bratta, because he brought it up, and he does not believe that you can rank quarterbacks that are inexperienced above other quarterbacks. And I just said, I understand the point. They've not proven anything. But if that is going to be your approach, and you automatically rank everybody who's thrown a pass or a meaningful pass, and then you rank guys below that, knowing that halfway through the season, Julian Sayan's probably going to have better stats than almost every quarterback in the Big Ten, then you're just, I understand the principle of it, but we can make reasonable projections based on what we know about these programs and the talent of these players.
Yeah, if you went by that, Diego Pavia would be like a top 5 quarterback in college football.
What do you do with Mark Gronowski at Iowa?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of experience, but not FBS experience. So I guess he doesn't count, or he does count, or is that worth 50% of what it would be in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, for college football, you have to project, and that's not just with players, but obviously with teams as well. It'd be crazy not to.
The best example I have of my own approach is the season that Bryce Young was named the starting quarterback at Alabama. And it said volumes to me because the previous 3 or 4 seasons, Nick Saban had a quarterback battle. A guy won the quarterback battle either in March or in August. And then, of course, Alabama was one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country. This particular year, Nick Saban said before spring practice, Bryce Young's the starting quarterback. And I thought, wow, with everything we know about how he was evaluated out of high school, and if Nick Saban says we don't even have a quarterback competition here, and he could have played it safe, of course, and that would be what you would think would be the wise thing to do, is at least say, even though I know this guy's amazing, we're going to watch spring practice and we're going to watch at least a couple of weeks of August camp. But if Nick Saban's going to say that, then I either ranked him number 1 or number 2 in the country.
No, you ranked him 2 because I remember that. I was on your side. I was high on him as well. I don't think I had him at 2, but you have to project, and it obviously matters when you get guys like a Saban, or even like Sark isn't as good as a head coach, obviously, as Nick Saban, but he's really good at evaluating quarterbacks. And when Sark's like, yeah, he's our quarterback right after the season, there's not going to be any doubt about it. Arch Manning's probably pretty good. So I'm really not that worried about it. And another thing that, like, Aaron Murray, I don't know if you saw it, the comment he made was just, I couldn't believe he said it. This is why, like, just because you played a sport doesn't mean you can talk about it. He said, well, if he was so good, why didn't he start over Quinn Ewers, who was a 7th round pick? You know how many years you can go through of college football and find guys that were like low picks in the NFL, and the guy behind him did better the next year? Case in point, Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick. Mac Jones was a late 1st round pick. So should they have started Bryce Young over Mac Jones on one of the best teams of all time? Like, there's so many examples of that. Ohio State, Joe Burrow had to transfer out and go to LSU, had to put up the best season in college football history. Dwayne Haskins was still a 1st round pick. That doesn't mean you chose wrong.
I would think Aaron Murray would also take into consideration that if Sark is as good as he is, and if Arch Manning, being a very young man, is as good as he is, then he's a different quarterback and will be this September than he would have been last September.
Exactly. That's another thing too. People are like, well, he got that much better over 1 year. Yeah, when you're young and you're just, playing football not that long. Arch Manning's been playing football like 7 years. I think he started in 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, you can get a lot better in that, 7-8 month span.
Absolutely.
It's crazy, some of the stuff I've read. Like, and I'm being fair about him. I have him ranked somewhere between the 8th and 12th best quarterback in college football. I'm not going to put him number 1 because he doesn't deserve to be in my eyes. But it's just crazy that people make some of these dumb comments that they make.
Who do you have ranked as the best quarterback in the SEC?
So I'm going to get heat for this, but just what I've watched, and if he stays healthy, DJ Lagway. I think DJ Lagway he's basically Arch Manning, but a better athlete. That's what I think he is. That's why I have him ranked 1. I'm very, very high on him.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I don't see any guys out there that are for sure superstars at the quarterback position, elite, great players. Now, they'll probably emerge, but coming into this season, I think the most proven guys are guys like Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik, but I don't see Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence. I don't see the combination of the talent. I see guys with that kind of talent, Arch Manning, etc., but not with the experience. And then I see guys with experience, Klubnik, Aller, but they're not at that level.
No, I completely agree. And that's why, like, to me, the top 4 was easy to rank in the SEC. Of those 4 guys, whatever order you want to put them in is fine. I have, like, the 4 where I believe I went Lagway 1, Nussmeier 2, Sellers 3, and then I went Manning 4. Those are my top 4. After that, I think there's a drop-off. I have them a tier 5, but I think there's a drop-off.
Very good. Anything else going on, Matthew?
So we are previewing the Ohio State game next Monday with the Ohio State channel. So really excited about that. Obviously, I think it's one of the 2 to 3 best games, maybe the best game the whole year. So please check that out. We will cross stream on both the Ohio State and Texas channel. Really excited to talk about it, debate who we think is going to win. So it's going to be really fun to talk about. And obviously we'll do it again when the season gets closer as well, game week.
So is that next Monday?
That will be next Monday.
8 Eastern?
8 Eastern time. Yep.
Okay. Ohio State, Texas preview, everyone. Texas channel, Ohio State channel. I guess pick your side. It doesn't matter to us, or me personally, I should say. Matthew would like you on the Texas channel.
Yeah.
Texas channel, Tuesday night. Sorry, Monday night, 8 Eastern. I can't keep track of these shows anymore.
There's a lot of shows. I totally get it. So you're all good.
All right, Matthew, good to see you. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, me too. I think it's just, with the Canadian wildfires, living in a valley, I think it's just allergies and probably got like a sinus infection, but it is what it is. Just keep going. I'll feel better soon.
Well, thanks for the take.
Yeah, no problem. See you, Mark.
We'll see you. It's our guy, Matthew Miller. He's on the Texas channel hosting with our guy, Gerald. And that's, as you just heard, Monday night, 8 Eastern time. Any interesting comments or questions? I believe we've got a super chat coming in that we will address. Mark rocking a new hairdo. Same hairdo. It's just flopping a different way. Basically, this is the same hairdo I've had since I was like 8 years old. So it's pretty much, maybe the sideburns were longer at one point. This comes to mind just because I had my phone in my hand and I was talking to some different people last night and we were going through some pictures. So that's fresh in my mind. If you go through the pictures, okay, that's 2021, that's 2018. Yeah, it was longer then it was shorter, and then it was all over the place. But it's one of these with some gel and no gel right now, but gel, and then boom, get out of the shower, gel, boom, plant in the side. There we go, done. And it comes out pretty much the same every time. My son told me the last couple of times I went to get a haircut, and then he likes to FaceTime me. He's like, "You got a good cut, Dad. Go back to that place." And I'm like, I think it looks the same. It doesn't matter where I get it cut. Within a day or two, it's going to look exactly the same as it always does. All right. Then we've got a super chat coming our way. Thank you so much for that. Coming in from Ryan. Ryan's got a question here. Do you think USC regrets hiring the recruiting coordinator from Wisconsin? Well, I would think so, since he was named in Wisconsin's recruiting violations. Yeah, let's read that real quick here. Doesn't seem anything too awful or egregious by the Badgers, but yes, there is a recruiting violation that we were going to hit on here. Ryan, thank you for the contribution. Here we go. Wisconsin gets probation, fine for impermissible calls. I glanced at this headline. The first thing that went through my mind was another Michigan kind of scandal, but that would not be the case. Okay. Wisconsin was placed on 1 year's probation, fined $25,000 on Thursday. An NCAA investigation showed that 9 coaches and staffers made impermissible phone calls in 2023. Former defensive line coach Greg Scruggs, and if you follow the path of one Greg Scruggs, that guy, it should not be surprising in any such way that he's mixed up in something that's against the rules, because that guy, I don't remember the exact journey, but I know he only lasted at one job for like 2 weeks because he was drunk driving, and then he did something else somewhere else and he moved on, and so he doesn't necessarily seem to be the most reputable man on the face of the planet. Former director of player personnel Max Steinecker received a 1-year show clause order. Scruggs is now an assistant defensive line coach for the San Francisco 49ers, an assistant defensive line coach. Steinecker is USC's executive director of personnel. Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell and outside linebackers special teams coach Matt Mitchell were prohibited from having recruiting communications with high school prospects. In that week of June, Fickell was determined to have violated head coach responsibility rules. Division I Committee on Infractions hearing panel determined that a total of 139 impermissible phone calls were made to 48 prospects. 60 of the calls lasted 1 minute or less. Busy, not picking up. That might tell us more than anything right there. I think that sentence right there tells us more about the Wisconsin football program and the Wisconsin recruiting effort in the last 3 or 4 years than anything else. That they made 139 calls to guys that should be like, wow, I'm getting a call from the Wisconsin coaching staff, maybe Luke Fickell himself. But half of them, roughly 60 out of 139, lasted 1 minute or less. I think that basically means that they didn't pick up. Wisconsin's compliance. Is Nick Saban's Alabama coaching staff making 139 calls and 60 of them don't get picked up? Wisconsin's compliance monitoring systems for phone communications uncover the violations. Okay, self-policing, apparently. Reported the violations in September of 23. Self-imposed penalties. Whatever those were. I don't see them listed here. Self-imposed penalties that obviously were not enough for the NCAA. All parties determined factors leading to the violations, including a new staff's unfamiliarity with the school's compliance processes, along with a misunderstanding of rules pertaining to recruiting calls. And I got to say, that excuse is usually in there to some degree. Is it legit? No, you need to know the rules. But at the same time, the NCAA rules are so convoluted. I don't know that I could follow them. Wisconsin's athletics deeply committed to maintaining the highest level of integrity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To answer your question, just based on that bit of information, Ryan, no, I would not necessarily put that on the recruiting coordinator. So he was the recruiting coordinator at Wisconsin. Yeah, he should know what he's doing, and he should be on top of those rules. So if I'm a head coach in college football and I got to keep track of a zillion things, I got to hire a recruiting coordinator that I trust, that I know knows the rule book. And if there's one thing you know about recruiting, it's a grind, and you got to pay attention to the rules because there's a zillion rules. So I, the head coach, in a perfect situation, would not know every recruiting rule. That's why I got a recruiting coordinator. He's supposed to know all the rules because he only needs to know the recruiting rules. I got to know all the rules. So if he knows the recruiting rules, then I can trust him to do the right thing and hold the coaching staff accountable. But that did not happen. So should you have a concern? Possibly. That's all we know about the guy. My concern would be that you're hiring the Wisconsin recruiting coordinator. Okay. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. The Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, check out the Miami show on Wednesday night. I gave my Amazon spiel, and Cam Underwood just popped in and said, Mark, yeah, I used your Amazon link the other day. People need to use the Amazon link. It's easy. It's exactly the same. It knew exactly immediately that it was me. It's my account, my settings. It's transparent. It's a smart company. They know what they're doing with these websites and redirecting. So nothing changes from the link that you're currently using. So if I disappear someday, then you'll know it's because not enough people use the Amazon link. That's all I'm going to say there. All right, we got Will here to talk some college football.
Hey, Mark. So
How's it
I know
going?
this is kind of old news now, but about the new NCAA the rules that the Congress did,
Yeah.
do you think there's actually anything noteworthy about it, or do you think it's all just a
You're
big bowl of hullabaloo?
you're talking about the settlement being old
Yes.
news. Oh, that's not old news, Will. That's all that matters right now. That's not old news. That's just a couple days ago, but it's news that this is going to be the way college sports is run going
Do
forward.
you think, like, I mean, it was the Wild West before the settlement. Do you think the settlement really changed anything besides, like, the schools giving can give out money to not just collectives?
I think it will change quite a bit if people abide by the rules. But if schools determine, mm, see, this is the deal. My thought about this $20.5 million payroll to
Mhm.
athletes at each university, that seemed pretty reasonable to me, or pretty reasonable from the school's perspective, that most of them would be able to say, okay, we can handle that. Because the level of cheating or the temptation to cheat changes based on, okay, if you said Ohio State, you can spend 5 million payroll, and Northwestern, you can spend, everybody spends 5 million. Well, schools like Ohio State be like, you're out of your mind. We need to spend a lot more than that. But if you suddenly said 100 million, then they would have no incentive to work outside the rules, because then
Mhm.
they would have that buffer above their competition to where they can operate and operate like an elite program. Now, this seems, we had the guy on from CBS Sports yesterday, and he confirmed that every school in the power conferences say that they're going to hit this $20 million mark. So they're all committed to.
Mhm.
Northwestern's going to spend 20.5 million, which they should. They do get
Mhm.
90 million from a media contract every year now. So it's going to go to NIL. If everything is played out and performed above board, then everyone's at 20.5 million. And then it's going to go to the collectives and the ability of these schools to raise money outside of that 20.5 million. That's going to keep the big superstar programs out ahead of everyone.
So they aren't supposed to spend more than that. Like they said, like they can also get money that's from a collective, but they have to get it approved. That was like part of what we read.
Yeah, the 20 and a half's the 20 and a half. And that's going to go up about 4% per year. It's going to
Mhm.
be sitting at like 33 million in 10 years. But then you've got two different levels or categories of NIL over here. One is the schools NIL fund and what they collect. And then you are just going to have random deals that are going to be brought to the clearinghouse by the athlete and their agent to say, Joe Blow and his car dealership want to sponsor us, and he's going to pay me $2 million a year. And apparently, the clearinghouse is going to look at whatever work is going to be serviced there to determine whether it's truly worth $2 million a year. So it's not a pay for play proposition.
Yeah. So what USC's offering the tight end like a lot of money. So would that be so? What category would that fit in? Like, would that still be?
Well, it's going to fit. So I would think if they're offering him a ton of money, that better come from NIL, because that's going to, you can almost look at this $20.5 million like a salary cap. So that's
Yeah.
going to take away from a lot of other players in that bucket. So I would think that they would want to go the other route.
Okay. So yeah, they're going the other route. I think it was like 24 mil. I think it was like 24 for the tight end. That was like insane.
For a tight end, we're talking
Yeah.
about Mark Bowman.
Yes, him. Yeah. So I was like, that's like more than the house settlement money, or like close to it. But,
Wow.
hmm And the other question was when I came in, you and Matthew were talking about John Mateer and Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Do do you think that Venables can survive this year with that schedule? Like, I just don't think the team is that the roster is that impressive
Plus or
that
minus 3, Will. Plus or minus 3.
yes,
There's going to be plus
that,
or minus 3s everywhere.
mm-hmm.
And Oklahoma doesn't look like a good candidate with that schedule, but I wish I had the schedule here. I thought I had a preview magazine. I guess I could pull it up here. Yeah. Bama, LSU, Texas, Michigan, Tennessee. It's the same schedule
Tennessee.
they
I
had
think
last year.
Tennessee's my minus pick because they lost Nico. Not just because they lost Nico, but that's my minus pick for the SEC. Tennessee
7-5.
minus. So,
Yeah.
7-5.
I don't know if I can go quite there, but they're a candidate. Minus from the SEC. The SEC didn't have any 11-1 teams last year, or did Texas go 11-1?
They lost to Georgia, and then they lost to them again in the
Yeah, so they went a regular season.
11-1.
Yeah, they're not going to drop to 8-4. But yeah, I don't have a favorite in that race. Now the other direction, I like Auburn.
Well, maybe Florida.
Florida goes 10-2. Maybe. I like Auburn possibly going 8-4.
That's another one. And then Big Ten. A lot of people are going to say Indiana. Of course, Indiana goes 11-1 to 8-4.
Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind for me.
And then maybe USC gets their act together and goes 9-3. But
They could go 9-3. Michigan 10-2.
Yeah, Michigan 10-2 and Indiana probably the two favorites.
Purdue 4-8.
Yeah. Gosh, they were pathetic last season.
But they've got to play Notre Dame, and I think they've got another Power 5. Maybe it's Oregon State.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. And then ACC would be Florida State.
You know who's got a tough schedule? We were looking at Wisconsin yesterday. And this Wisconsin team doesn't look great to me. And they open with Maryland in the Big Ten. And we assume that they're going to lose.
Gosh, it's a dog show of a game. That's a rough one.
That's a rough one.
Straight to Peacock, or Big Ten Network, one of the two.
Yeah, it's week 4, so we don't know yet. But after this, look at the potential to lose these games.
So
Open with Maryland.
They're losing to Alabama, Michigan.
But look at this run. They will
That's
then
all. That's
play
probably all losses. I
Michigan,
mean, maybe they beat
Iowa, Oregon.
But I mean, they got ran over at home by Minnesota, and I always considered Iowa better than Minnesota last year.
And then, even though that's a much easier closing stretch, almost all of those teams are going to be considered, at least now, better.
Yeah.
And with 2 on the road.
This is the hardest. This has to be the hardest Big Ten schedule, right?
Well, they just missed Penn State and USC. It probably is. Michigan's got an easy one. Michigan's got an extremely easy one. They had a tough one last year.
We did have a tough one last year.
Yeah, Michigan went from, let me remember the numbers here. Oh, it was some ridiculous. Michigan only plays one team with a winning record from Big Ten play last year, Ohio State.
Jeez Louise. They play USC, but besides those two.
Yeah. Well, USC was 4-5.
Yeah, USC is a question mark.
Yeah. I'm just technically, not that I don't think USC's talented, but just technically speaking, they were a losing team in the Big Ten last year.
All right. Mark, I wanted to get your house settlement opinion, but thanks for having me on.
All right, Will. Good to see you.
All right.
Our guy Will ND checking in. Good to see him. Good to see everyone here at the Voice of College Football. ESPN posted something that I believe that they have shown us in the past. It's kind of a power ranking, but it projects forward. So it's not just the in the moment power ranking for 2025, but they want to include kind of a trajectory component, which the trajectory projections that any of us would make on any of these teams now versus what we could do before is crazy. And we'll take the call from Burks here in just a second. Let me spell it out this way. Rewind 5 years and look at anybody's quarterback room in college football. And you basically had, okay, this dude's the starter, or these two dudes are battling for the starting job, and therefore you've got a capable backup. And then you probably had a quarterback who's not going to be anything special, but he's a dependable backup, whether it's that guy that loses the quarterback battle or just a good backup that is going to come in and be dependable. Then you got your freshman that you're really counting on to be a superstar, to break through, to be the next guy. And those are really the three guys in play. Your junior/senior going into the season, and then his counterpart that's either the stable, dependable backup or is the guy battling him for the job that's, let's say, sophomore/junior. And then your hotshot freshman, maybe into a sophomore year, still backing up as the third stringer. And then your program players to fill out the 4, 5, and 6 spots at quarterback. And you had a trajectory. You take any of your favorite schools, go back to any year in the past. Just pick a year, 2012, 2016, and look at the quarterback room, look at their classes, and you had a pretty good trajectory of the way things were headed and knew what was going to happen. Now, obviously, they had to continue to backfill with more recruiting classes, but now, who knows? Burks maybe knows. Got Burks stopping by. Burks, what's going on today?
Hey, what's up, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, how you been?
Good, man. Hey, listen, I was just wondering this week, or I don't know if you talked about it, but like the all-time college football rankings, right? Like, did you discuss about it this week or not really?
Well, I will say this. I don't think on this laptop I can really show it. So I finished my Big 12 power rankings or all-time
Yeah.
rankings. I finished those. The audio, I cut the audio for it, and now I've got to build the graphics. And that's what I was in the middle of doing this
Mhm.
afternoon. So I'd like to
Yeah.
release all those next week. So we're going to start with the Big 12. Maybe that'll be out in the morning. And then the plan was to release all these videos, and then obviously you guys can watch them. Then we can debate on here. So yeah, they're coming. Still with us, Burks? I think we lost Burks. Burks, I'll try you back in a couple seconds here. Hello, Burks. Okay. So what Burks was asking about is the all-time program rankings. And yes, what really makes it a bit frustrating would be a little bit strong. I'm not that frustrated about it, but take the Big 12. I would love to be able to do it two ways. I would love to say, okay, these are the current schools in the Big 12, and this is how I rank them all time, even though the majority of their time was not played in the Big 12 against each other. Arizona State, 1 year in the Big 12, but they're a Big 12 school now. So I would have a ranking for all the schools in the Big 12 right now, their all-time rankings based on their all-time numbers, much of which was not played against each other. But then I would like to take every school that ever played in the Big 12 and evaluate them and filter out Yeah, filter out all of their season outside of the Big 12 and do that ranking. So the Big 12 would be the 16 teams that are in the Big 12 right now, although for about 7 of them, would it really matter? 2 seasons out of Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF, and 1 season of the 4 that entered this last season. But it would be more of a historic, okay, all the old Big 12 schools, and then throw Texas and Oklahoma back in, just take off their last season. But then that's not even accurate, because if you're going to take their all-time statistics, then the Big 12 just started in 1996. So I would have to have a computer program, and I would have to have different parameters that I put in, because I would love to evaluate the Big 12 from 1996 through the departure of Oklahoma and Texas, which Oklahoma wins that hands down. It's not even close. And I allude to that, and I run that down during this video. We're going to try Burks again. Hopefully he can get through. Hey, Burks.
Hey, what's up? Can you
Hey,
hear?
there you are.
Yeah, cool.
You're back.
Yeah, so no, my bad. So okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Oklahoma is the best program in the Big 12. Not even like of all time. They're probably like top 6. They're definitely a blue blood. I'm just wondering, so I know you're making a list for like every conference, but what would be, in your opinion, like just the top 3 programs of all time?
The
You know,
top
like
3.
yeah. Like that's something I'm curious,
Yikes.
because I put Alabama at 1.
Yep.
I think they're the greatest ever. Like,
Why?
I feel like the gap from number 1 and number 2, it's a huge gap, right?
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
that's what I feel like, because
You
just look at how many for Alabama. They have the most national titles. They have, well, if you don't count Princeton and Yale, obviously, and they have like good amount of Heisman. They have the most bowl game wins, and I think bowl wins, like big bowl wins, to me, that's a criteria that's really important. Now they are lacking in what was it? They are lacking in like all American. Well, no, I have a good amount of all Americans as well. But NFL draft picks too. They're all good in those stats. It's just that I feel it'd be number 1, because I don't know if you saw ESPN's top programs 150 years, but they put Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, and Ohio State 3. And I kind of feel that makes a good amount of sense, just because I like that list, but I'm still trying to determine if number 2 would really be Notre Dame. Just because they've had a lot of, but I would put like those 3 and then USC. I don't know, dude. That's just my opinion right now, but I do feel like Alabama number 1, and the gap is really. I don't know if you agree on that, but
So I got a lot of questions to ask you
yeah,
based on how you evaluate things. So,
yeah,
and for most of these, to me, there's
hmm
not a huge right or wrong. I think it's
yeah.
more subjective than that.
hmm
But number 1, to you, does a national championship count more in 2024 than it did in 1924?
Absolutely, like not even a question.
Okay.
So.
Um,
hmm
do you take into account so out of these bowl games, let's keep in mind that the Big Ten did not send anyone to bowl games that did not win the Rose Bowl or go to the Rose Bowl before 1975. So these
Yeah,
Big Ten teams were at a huge disadvantage in regards to accumulating bowl games played and wins.
yeah.
So that's one thing to consider.
hmm
I've got a video out where I went through Alabama's national championships, and Alabama takes a lot of heat for claiming national championships all over the place. But I doubt that most of the people that give them grief over that have really investigated it, because I did. And I'll have to find that video. But I went through their national championships 4 or 5 years ago, and I actually subtracted 2 or 3. But at the same time, I added 2 or 3 that they could claim. So I came out with the same number of national championships for Alabama.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree on that too, but like I said, a championship from 21st century is weighted so much more than back in the old days, you know, like you don't understand how much weight. That's why I put Ohio State. If I were to put who's the better program, Michigan or Ohio State, I'm actually going to pick Ohio State. And the reason why is on paper, Michigan looks like the better program, right? Most national titles, most wins, you know, good amount of All Americans, NFL draft picks. You know, I put all that in my criteria. But if all championships are weighted the same, Michigan would be the better program. But because it's not, I put Ohio State as the better program. And just like, you know, they have more All Americans, more NFL draft picks than Michigan. They lead in basically everything, just conference championships and you know, wins and national championships, and then the rivalry, obviously. But you know, I do consider Ohio State a better program just because of how dominant they've been and consistent. You know, and I know Michigan fans are gonna then act like, oh, I don't, you know, I'm delusional and stuff. Are you even a true? No, it's like you have to take it so much stuff into criteria. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just do think Ohio State is the better football program, and so that's why like Michigan's not a top three program in my opinion of all time. They're like a top five. But like I said, like I would put Mark, I would put bowl wins, championships, um, what was it, conference championships. Then I'd put like, you know, how many titles they've claimed, unclaimed, that has to do with it. All Americans, NFL draft picks. That's my whole criteria when you decide what's the greatest, and then win percentage as well, you know?
Okay, I'm not going to show my grid here
Yeah.
because I have in the past, but
Uh-huh.
I'm working on these videos. So
Yeah.
um, I have here
Yeah.
win percentage.
Uh-huh.
Then I've got AP rankings points,
I forgot
meaning that
about that.
that the AP has a system.
Yeah.
And for as much as I rag on the AP, over
Hmm.
time, that's going to be very telling. You know, you can pick on, as I do, maybe a
Uh-huh.
particular AP ranking, but over time, obviously, you're not going to appear in the top 5, the top 10, the top 25 if you've not earned it. Yeah, I'm looking at winning percentage. I look at total bowl wins, also major bowl wins, so I distinguish those. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that Ohio State only has 30 bowl wins. When I say only 30 bowl wins, but 25 are major bowl wins, where Michigan has 24 bowl wins and only 13 major bowl wins. You also have to consider when these teams join the conference, and unfortunately, they join at different times. I'm not just talking about those two, I'm talking about looking at any. So there are a lot of statistics I would love to compile, but I just don't have the patience, nor is it worth the time to do it. But I started to compile the percentage of times winning the conference championship, not just the total conference championships won, but then measuring based on how many years you've been in the conference, have you won the conference championship? That's more of a fair statistic of comparison. You know, Michigan State's only been in the Big Ten since 1953. So
Yeah.
it's kind of tough for them to compete for the most conference championships. Yeah, I've got the NFL draft selections, first round selections, All Americans,
Yep.
Heisman winners, and then all the award winners
Yeah.
at all the various positions. And then, just as a point of reference, I just think it's interesting. I've got everyone's statistics from the CFP era in terms of wins and losses since 2000 and post 1970. And then, kind of connected to the AP points, I went through and I counted everybody's top 25 finishes, their top 10s, and their top 5s. And Ohio State actually, oh, look at that. You know who's got the most top 5 finishes ever? I'm slightly surprised by this. Oklahoma's got 33, Ohio State 31, Alabama 30. Those are top 5 finishes.
Wow, I'm even surprised. Yeah, no, it's just that ESPN, when they had in 2019, they had top 150, like 150-year anniversary of 2019, and there's an article, and they put on ESPN's website, they put Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, and Ohio State's 3. And it makes sense, but then I'm kind of like, okay, if you're considering conference championships, Notre Dame's not in a conference, so they don't have won a conference championship. So do you like kind of put that lower because like they don't have a, like a criteria for that? It's just really interesting, man. It's just like crazy. But I will say this. I think Alabama is my unanimous number one, just because they won 6 natties in the 21st century, and those natties are consensus. They didn't share it with anyone,
Sure.
and it's just they're weighted so much compared to like one Alabama title from 21st, like Michigan's 2023 title is weighted way more than all of those titles that they won in the past. It's just weighted that much more. Like it could be weighted 3, 4 titles in one. That's what I feel.
Yeah. According
Because
to you. Yes.
yeah, because like they won a natty that was just 5 wins only, Michigan. You know, and so I look at that and I'm like, okay, 21st century titles are just weighted way more. Now, if you're talking about like all natties are weighted the same, then the ranking of mine will change.
Yeah. Think about this.
Yeah,
Michigan's got 12 national championships
yeah,
and Ohio State's got 9. And when we hit 1950,
yeah.
Michigan's won 2 since then, and Ohio State only had 1 as of 1950.
Hmm.
So there's been a lot of catching up in the last 70 years in terms of all the categories. Michigan, if we counted forward, if we started in the 1880s, 1890s and counted forward, and stopped, let's say, sometime in the 30s or 40s or 50s, Michigan had an enormous lead on Ohio State.
Yeah, it's dude, it's super interesting. I'm not gonna lie,
Oh, it
and
is.
it's
And
like,
the one thing, Burks, that I
yeah,
found difficult to do is, and I tried this last off season. I went back to 1869, the first season. So I'm looking at the first season, and obviously it's not much of a season. There's 2 teams and they played twice. So I was thinking, can I legitimately, if I go forward every year, 1870, 71, 72,
yeah,
can I find a
hmm,
time in which there was this huge surge and I could finally say, okay, that's the first legitimate season?
hmm,
And I couldn't do it. The
yeah,
sport has evolved so slowly and so steadily that there
hmm.
was no time that I felt, okay, 1909 is not legitimate, but 1910 is. I just couldn't do it. It just wasn't that clear.
What makes no sense, Mark, also is so, Ohio State fans always love to make fun out of our 1997 title because we won half a natty. We claimed it with Nebraska, right? Um, but it's so funny because one of their natties, their 1970, they lost the Rose Bowl.
Absolutely.
Yet they were called champions, but their 1973 title, they went undefeated and they won. This is what makes no sense. This is why whoever the hell made this is what pisses me off, man. I'm sorry. Like, why do you award a person a champion to be national champions when you lost? And even Texas too. I think they both lost their bowl games, you know? I might be wrong with Texas if someone can but and then they award both those national champions. What is this bull crap? Like literally.
You're
And
right.
then it makes zero sense. And this is why it's so hard to like to decide. Like Ohio State should not have gotten the 1970 national championship, claimed it. 1973 they should have yet, but it's unclaimed. So when they make fun of our 1997 titles half, I could say the same thing with the 1970.
Sure,
Just
you
saying.
can.
You know?
Uh, oh, I think there's a ton here. So
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, I don't know at what point you started watching, but
2011 was like my first year of college football.
oh,
So
started watching college football. I don't know at what point you
yeah.
started watching me, but
Oh, you 2 year last year, man. Yeah.
okay. So this
Yeah. Yeah.
this was several years
Yeah.
ago that I thought, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go through. And we held kind of like workshops. I said, everybody roll up their sleeves. We're doing a workshop. This isn't going to be the most polished show, but we're just going to sit here and grind through these seasons. And we did. And I did not get as far as I wanted to, but you can see some of my work there. Or that's not the work. That's the finished product. Like, okay, we made a determination. And if anything, Burks, this may or may not make sense to you, that I actually added national championships because in most of these seasons, there's a zillion services that name national champions. And then there's the schools that claim their own national championships. And then there is the recognized AP and the coaches poll that 90% of the time agreed, but about the other 10 or 15% of the time disagreed. So you had either one or two national champions. Well, there's a ton of seasons, and you're starting to hit on some of them where there's actually like 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams that the way things played out in terms of records, schedule, that can all legitimately claim the national championship for that season. And I'm not going to be the one to say, well, they get it, but those other 4, they don't get it. So it's messy, but there are seasons where I think there should be 5 national champions.
Really? I
Yes.
just don't think it should just be one national champion. Just because whoever wins the most important bowl game, I feel like back in the days, the Rose
Okay.
Bowl was
Who's
the
the
national.
1997 national champion?
Yeah, AP. I'm seeing that right now.
No, I'm just saying who's the 1997 national champion? Because you just said that
Michigan.
there
Yeah,
should
yeah,
only be
yeah.
one.
And Nebraska, technically both. So,
Well,
but
you just told me there should only be one.
it should be only one. And Michigan
Well,
won the
there
Rose
should
Bowl.
be, yes. If we could
Yes.
go back in time, we'd have these teams play and there would only be one. That would be, yes, absolutely. I don't want there to be 5 national champions, but I'm just saying.
It's ludicrous. It's completely ludicrous to have 5 teams try to claim the national championship. It screws a whole. I don't know who the hell invented this crap. I'm sorry. It really is frustrating because I'm trying to find the best program of college football of all time. I try to be like a historian, I'm like a college football historian. I'm trying to be like one, right? Trying to make all of these analysts of what's the best program. It makes my life so much harder when, they're avoiding 4 or 5 teams of a national championship. And then a team can claim the national championship when they lost a damn natty. Like, please tell me, Mark, why is it that NCAA has Notre Dame claiming 13, yet they've claimed only 11? Makes 0 sense, if you ask me.
Yes, it all makes 0 sense.
You know?
So look at this 1975, Burks. Help me out here, because listen to my claim here.
Yeah.
So what is really strange in this sport, let's add it to the list, is that bowl games went from being completely disregarded, where, as you mentioned, Ohio State claims a national championship after losing the Rose Bowl, where up until about 1970, depending on the school, these bowl games were kind of considered exhibition games to a certain extent, to within 5 years, these things are considered basically playoff games. And if you lost a bowl game, there is no way you could claim a national championship, which I understand the optics of losing on New Year's Day and claiming a national championship. But in fact, they are not playoff games. They are just another game. Correct?
Yeah.
So look at, this is just one example. There's many like this. 1975, Oklahoma 11-1, Ohio State's 11-1, Alabama's 11-1. Well, the AP and the coaches poll both agreed Oklahoma, who won the Orange Bowl against Michigan, is the national champion. Well, Oklahoma lost to a 7-5 Kansas team. Ohio State lost to, keep in mind, they lost to a UCLA team that obviously won the Pac-12 or the Pac-8 at the time and went to the Rose Bowl and finished 9-2-1. And Ohio State actually beat UCLA by 3 touchdowns in the regular season. And Alabama lost to a 6-5 Missouri team. So why is Oklahoma the national champion? Why is Ohio State or Alabama? Or I'm going to publish all this at some point, and I don't really care if anyone ignores me or what the buy-in is. But to me, there are 3 national champions for 1975. You can't distinguish between those 3 teams.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. It's just so complicated, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
It makes my life so much harder because I love being a. Now, last question before I leave. Okay, this is the blue blood stuff, right?
Yep.
Do you feel that Nebraska, because we have some Nebraska fans in the chat, and I love Nebraska fans. I truly feel like they're the best fan base in all of college football, not even a question. They're polite, they have manners, they show up to their games, man. So I'm just wondering, and no offense, but do you feel that Nebraska is a blue blood, or do you think they lost their status?
Okay. I have a different take on this than most people do.
Okay. Yeah.
So I put 2 different terms on this. One is elite,
Mhm.
one is blue blood.
Yeah.
Okay. Elite means that you can be Clemson and
Uh-huh.
you can be a top 15 or 20 program, and you're not elite
Yeah.
for your history, but then Dabo Swinney can take over and you can become in the moment elite. So for me, Clemson was and maybe still is elite.
Hmm.
Okay, they're not a blue blood, but they're elite.
Yeah.
Georgia's elite right now.
I agree.
They've
I
been
agree on that.
elite. Okay.
Yep. Hmm.
So blue blood to me, and I think some people agree with this, and I'm not saying my way is the best way or the only way, but a blue blood, that the term comes from royalty. Like it's a royal term, meaning if your bloodline is your bloodline, and even if you completely blew the kingdom and you screwed up your wealth and you were disowned and all that, and you're impoverished on the street, you're still a blue blood. You originally were a blue blood. So to me, you can't become a blue blood later.
Gotcha. So you have to
Clemson
be.
can win 10 straight national championships and they're not going to be a blue blood. To me, the blue bloods are Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, USC, Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, and Penn State. They're on the line.
So they're not, basically.
And if I'm going to hold
Yeah.
to my definition, we would have to go back to the beginning of college. And if we went back to the beginning, then Harvard and Princeton and Yale are blue bloods. Army was a blue blood. But I think that you have to still be playing big time college football today. That has to be the criteria, that you were one of the, let's say in the 1920s, when the sport really took off and became somewhat organized, established with the conferences that we still see today. Whatever teams were, you know what? Ohio State fans may not like this, but you can make an argument that they're not a blue blood.
Hey, don't say that, man. Oh my God, Ohio State fans are gonna.
It wouldn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, you are Ohio State fan, so. Uh, yeah, no. I think they're blue blood Ohio State, just because of their dominance they've been from the beginning to the end. I know in the beginning they weren't, they didn't really have a strong program. I don't know, like, yeah, no, I know your term. I know your term. But you have to be born into a blue blood and be dominant in the beginning, all the way from to beginning, all the way to the end, kind of. So basically, Nebraska and Penn State aren't blue bloods, but they were elite in their time. Like Nebraska was elite in the
Sure.
'90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we were just playing
Uh-huh.
college football from the
Yeah.
60s to 2000, then
Yeah.
Nebraska would be maybe the
Yeah.
blue blood.
Yeah, no. I think that's it, man. That was a really great talk. I'm not gonna lie. I love talking about history, and I'm kind of like a historian type in this type of stuff. Like, love history, love college football history in general. So, that was great, actually. It gives me a whole indication of you're even like it's a smart, like saying blue blood and elite. How you like put in different categories. I kind of like that, honestly. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, we do our best to be accurate and be
Yeah.
logical and sensible about
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah, of course, man.
Well, thanks, Burks. Good to
Yeah, of
talk to
course.
you. Call
Yeah,
back
nice.
anytime.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, man. Take care.
Burks is here a lot. It's good to hear from him on the phone line there. So we appreciate that. Bootzilla, I don't think you're getting my point. This is not dissing the Ohio State football program. I think it's the greatest in history. I think it's very debatable. I'm not going to come on here like Burks. Burks thinks Alabama is number one by far. I don't think Ohio State's number one by far. So I have no issue with anyone saying Notre Dame's number one, Alabama's number one, Michigan's number one. I think it's a great debate. I think it's close. But what I am saying, Bootzilla, is if you hold to my definition of a blue blood, I just said it's not obvious. It's not a slam dunk that Ohio State is a blue blood. If you're going to hold to that definition, I didn't say to hold to that definition, but that's where the term came from. Yes, blue bloods have nothing to do with current success. So if we're talking about the elites, then yes, Ohio State is clearly in that handful of teams. That's not debatable. Okay. So yeah, my little national championship project got stalled a couple of years ago. I would love to take that up again. Maybe we'll do a workshop and we'll pick it up from 1974, I believe is where I was. And of course, I don't challenge the current national championships because they were won on the field. I do challenge who was in the playoff. So take, for example, in 2017, Alabama won the national championship. I fully acknowledge and recognize Bama as the 2017 national champion, but you can make all sorts of arguments that UCF could have been in the playoff, Ohio State could have been in the playoff. So there are other considerations to be made. Florida State, am I going to give them a national championship in 2023? Of course not. They didn't play the two games that they would have needed. That would have been by far for them the most difficult games they would have played. Let's say Florida State would have been there instead of Alabama. They would have played like Michigan and Washington. So obviously those two games would have been by far the toughest games on their season. So I just can't say, you know what, Florida State, you got ripped off in 2023. Here's your national championship. No, but I think it is worth a footnote to say Florida State, 13-0 ACC champion in 2023, was not given an opportunity to win the national championship. That's how I see that. In 2014, I believe that the CFP committee got it right. Why? Not because those were the four best teams in the country necessarily, but Florida State was undefeated. Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State had one loss, and they were conference champions. And the Big 12 could not get their act together to determine why they couldn't see this coming. I don't know. The Big 12 really, over a course of years there, made a lot of stupid decisions. One being that they didn't see this coming, and it was clearly in the CFP rules that it would give the committee time to pause, reason to pause if you had two champions. So you simply break that up, Big 12, by saying the team that won the game is, and they had the perfect setup because everyone played each other in 2014. That's back when the conference only had 9 games and 10 teams, so everyone played each other. Therefore, it's easy. You know who your champion is. Baylor beat TCU on the field. They both have one loss. Baylor's your conference champion. So you can present to the CFP committee, this is our conference champion, not TCU and Baylor. They're both our champions. So I do note in my national championship calculations that Baylor and TCU, again, deserved consideration in 2014. But they played one less game. They did not play a conference championship game. Deserved consideration. Oh boy, Minnie had to go there. She has been a member for 2 months. So I think if she was only a member for 1 month, I would ignore this question. What did I put down for 1984? That is, excuse me, in some ways, that is the toughest year to address because BYU clearly had the best record, but they did not play a legitimate schedule. So to me, as you can see right there, I've got a 3-way national championship. Maybe you can't see that. So, 1984, BYU won the AP, won the coaches poll. I would love to see those votes. I don't think it was rather close, but I don't think they had they did not get every vote. Washington went and beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma was considered to be the team that would have won the national championship had they won the Orange Bowl. They were 9-1-1 entering the Orange Bowl, but Washington beat Oklahoma 28-17. And so Washington, what's ironic about this, why was Washington playing in the Orange Bowl? Because they lost head-to-head to USC, and therefore they only tied for the Pac-12 championship, or the Pac-10 championship at the time. Therefore, USC went to the Rose Bowl, even though USC was 8-3 and Washington was 10-1. USC went to the Rose Bowl as the Pac-10 champion. Washington relegated to the Orange Bowl, but then NBC and everybody got what they wanted. And that was a Washington-Oklahoma game, but Washington upset Oklahoma. Therefore, it created some chaos here. And even if Oklahoma would have won, they would have been 10-1-1 and not necessarily deserving of a national championship. Florida, you see, with only 11 games played, they did not play a bowl game. They were on probation. And a lot of people think that the Gators were the best team in the country. BYU never played a ranked team the entire season. The best team they played on paper, record-wise, was Air Force, 8-4, Hawaii 7-4. We all know that those teams were not that good. They were the 40th or 50th best teams in the country. Michigan was probably the best team they beat, but that was the worst Bo Schembechler Michigan team ever in 21 years. So I've got a 3-way tie for the championship. Florida lost to Miami and tied LSU. $1985 was easy. Oklahoma was the clear winner. They lost to Miami, but then Miami lost the Orange Bowl or the Sugar Bowl to Tennessee. Yeah, so I know I'm copping out on that one, but I'm not here to make... So the purpose here, the mission is not for me to tell people who I think would have won a game. That's not it. It's to compare qualifications. It's here to compare resumes and requirements. And that's why we've got ties, because we can't differentiate some seasons. Blue Wolverine, this guy has been on a roll. He has been amazing. To quote our buddy Jackson, he's been amazing. Amazing. I won't try the Southern drawl. He's been amazing. So Blue Wolverine, thank you so much for that. So you may find under your Christmas tree a gifted college football, Voice of College Football membership, because I believe that everyone is kind of surveyed in the chat. So YouTube basically says, okay, Blue Wolverine is gifting 10 Voice of College Football memberships, and he's going to give 10. And therefore, we've got this many people in the chat who are not members. Boom, 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 boom. So you may be a member before you know it. Blue Wolverine, thank you so much for that. That is extremely kind of you. And so we'll also keep in mind, Blue Wolverine, that that's a great reminder that, yes, I've not forgotten about a watch party. We will have a watch party in the month of June. And even if it's like July 2nd, it will count for the month of June. And then we will do one in July. We're going to do one going forward for the off season, one a month, and maybe, I don't know if you really care. We'll figure out if you care or not. If there's enough support for it, I think I would love to do a Monday night watch party every Monday night during the season. And so what we would do is, obviously the big games are played on Saturday. On Sunday, we determine, okay, I throw out a poll. Best game of the weekend. You guys vote. The winner we watch on Monday night. I'm going to throw out a poll on that right when we get done to see who's interested. So we would do a members only watch party every Monday. All right. Blue Wolverine again. Thank you for that. All right. We got so many good people here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Now we can enjoy the weekend. How about that? I'm going to hit a Top Golf for the first time in my life on Saturday, apparently. That's been suggested to me. And somebody is dragging me to, it's not dragging me. It's going to be fun. Top Golf. Never done it. There's two that are about equidistance. So that looks like that's in the Saturday plan. We're still trying to figure out what's going on tonight on the Voice of College Football. I've got all-time program rankings. They are coming. I got the voice down, the vocal track. I'm editing the graphics. I've got a bunch of lists to edit. So there we go. We're going to start with the Big 12. That's going to be released this weekend. So check that out, because what we're going to do is we're going to follow that up by having a big workshop, debate, analysis, breakdown, discussion with all of you. We'll go through the Big 12. I'm sure you're all going to roll your eyes and fall asleep, but we will get to the Big 10 and we will get to the SEC, but you're going to bear with me through the Big 12 and the ACC. And you ACC and Big 12 fans, I'm here for you. I am here for you. I am a defender of the little guy. Always have been, always will be. Matthew, it is fun, expensive food, though super expensive. Moose, have you been listening? I don't know. When are we going to watch that? I was going to do it next Monday night, but your Michigan boys are doing a membership drive or whatever they call it. So I don't want to run into that. Maybe next Tuesday. No, Tuesday is the Michigan show. You get too much Michigan programming. Obviously, you guys are going to watch your Michigan shows. So we'll figure it out. We're going to watch Ohio State and Michigan, and the Wolverines finally break through after 8 consecutive losses. Just never thought they'd win another game in that series. Have they won a game since then? I don't know. I'll have to check the record books on that. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football again, Blue Wolverine. Thank you. Everybody have a great weekend. Be looking out for the Big 10 all-time rankings. And if we get some breaking news, I will be here. Otherwise, you will see me Monday at 4 Eastern. Have a great weekend. Would love to know here what Christopher is referring to, that you are surprised that I don't argue that it's not a real thing since there is no real criteria. For next time, Christopher, come back.